Today I'm doing something a bit different. I'm going to rebuild the Tesla homepage in Webflow using the Atom Builder framework. And yes, the goal is to get very close to the original, but it's not a 100% pixel perfect clone down to every single detail. I'm not rebuilding the full menu system, and I'm skipping the boring footer. Instead, I'm focusing on the full homepage build, updating the global variables, including colors and typography, then building the navbar, hero section, and all the main sections using only Atom components, props, slots, and some utility classes. The full build took around an hour, but I've sped up parts of the video to keep the pace up. So it is still a complete follow-along build, just without making you watch every tiny click in real time. But the point is simple. When you build with the component first framework, you can move incredibly fast without losing structure, responsiveness, or control. Tesla's homepage looks simple, but simple design only works if the system underneath is strong, right? So let's build it. Okay, here we have Tesla's homepage, slider at the top, some sections, another slider, and yeah, you'll see what we have here. So let's jump into Atom Builder Framework. I have a fresh clone. First thing we're going to do is update some of the primitive variables. So I'm going to add the main blue color, and our variables are already calculated for us. But in this case, I'm just going to add the secondary colors as hex values like that to just keep the speed up. I'm going to leave all the neutral colors and all the opacity colors. Next, we're going to swap out the typography, the font. Just need to upload it to Webflow. I prepared the font formats here, so I just upload. It's not the exact same font, but it's pretty similar to what Tesla is using. It's not that important, but we have a new font. So back to the variables and back to typography, and I'm going to just change the font to Geist. I just think that looks pretty good. So we're going to use that one for this project or for this demo. The UI styles, I'm not going to change them. All the sizing variables, I'm just going to leave them as is. They work for most projects right out of the box. So next is the color schemes. Here we have to spend a little bit more time looking at how we want to set this up. We have text color is going to be neutral dark, and the secondary color I do neutral dark, sorry. And then we have foreground color is going to be like a neutral light or neutral lightest. And they don't really use the border color, so I'm just going to leave that. Accent color is going to be your brand 1 color. The border, the button colors, it's a blue, and the secondary is a white. So let's set that up. It looks like it's already pretty much set up. So brand 1 for the colors. For the secondary color, we're going to have a white background and white border. Text is going to be your primary text color. I think could work. And background is going to be a bit darker, so I use the neutral lightest. And hover text is going to also be your text primary. So that's your base 1 color scheme. For the brand 1 color scheme, I think we're going to do it like this with the darker button. So let's set up the background is going to be neutral lightest, so it's not completely white, and your foreground is white. Your buttons, you have a dark button and a light button. So let's set up your primary button. It's going to be a dark color. Border is going to be neutral darkest as well. Text is going to be white. And your hover is going to be like a lighter gray, I think. Could work. So there you have your primary button. And what else do we have? You have dark mode, because we have some sections where we have white text. So I'm just going to set that up. We don't really use a background or foreground in dark mode, so we just leave that. But your buttons are, I think they're about the same. So we just reset them like this, so they inherit your base mode. Same for the secondary. Wait, yeah, the primary. Yeah, all right, that works. Let's check out the style guide. We have, I'm gonna leave all the text sizes as is for this project. Of course, you can tweak the text sizes. This font is really spaced out. So let me just check the letter spacing really quick. Yeah, it was set to 0.1525 rem, so should set that to 0. Looks a bit better. Or actually, let's give it a negative of 0.25 m instead. It looks a bit better. So small details. Okay, let's move on. Here we have our colors. I think our color schemes. We don't use brand 2, so for now I would just reset everything, and later on I can remove these color schemes if I want to. But for now, in the gradient mode as well, we're not using that, so I'm just going to reset everything really fast like this. All right. Dark mode, something happened here. I think since I use text primer, it doesn't work because it's going to be the wrong in the dark mode. So I actually have to set the neutral darkest here, and that way it's going to work. So there you go. So the button text also visible. UI elements, I see the button has a not that much border radius, so I'm just going to select the main button class, just update the border radius from medium to small, and that's it. I think that's pretty much it. Text size looks smaller too, so I jumped down from regular to small, and that's very close to what Tesla has. I'm not going to bother with the rest of the style guide. I think it's pretty close. I mean, you can tweak it if you want to, but for this project, I'm just going to leave it as it is. Let's start with the page. So I'll just start from a builder template. So I have all the components already on my page. We're going to start by rebuilding the navbar. First thing we do is, of course, just replace the logo. So for this logo, I'm just going to add an image because I have just downloaded their logo as an SVG. And I'm just going to place that there, and I'm going to hide these. For the Atom framework, you can use SVG paths here if you want to, but I'm just going to have them as hidden by default. So here with our Tesla logo, I just have to update the size, and the way we do it is we just do it on desktop to avoid breakpoints. So we have like a dynamic value, a %, and then I have min max. Just going to tweak it to get it right. It looks like I have to do like 15% and maybe min 5 rem and max 8 rem or 6 rem min. I think that's going to look good. So it's going to look good on all screen sizes, but with just one media rule. So smart, right? Okay, I'm going to do some small tweaks to the menu. We have a lot of options here for the navbar, like we have a modal that I don't need. We have CTA button, and I'm just going to use that wrapper actually. But first let's center just center the menu with auto margins. So now it's centered, and I have the text needs to be a bit smaller too. So I just go from text regular, text small, increase the weight to medium, so it looks very similar. Yeah, I'm not going to bother building the whole menu. It will take a bit too long for this demo. I'm just going to tweak the navbar though, so it has the right height. It's very thin, Tesla, so I'm just going to decrease the min height, and I'm also going to change the, it looks like there's some padding here, right? So I'm just going to go to tiny, space tiny, as small as it gets. And that will just make the navbar a lot thinner. I also see we have a border by default, but that you can actually hide with the prop like that. So now that's gone. Okay. The Get Started button we need to replace with some icons. So I'm just going to hide this CTA, and I'm going to use the social link wrapper. I think we have that by default in the navbar. I'm going to use that wrapper and just replace the icons in here. And we use SVG path, so our logo component just supports SVG path. There's going to be a video about icons coming very shortly, how they work, but it's a very smart system where you can basically add any SVG path to your icons. And we built a path converter as well that you just saw there. But yeah, more videos coming about that soon. But there we go. It looks very similar. We're done with the navbar, I think. Next, we're going to jump into the hero section, or your main header. And we use header base. Just going to set all the spacing to none, and I'm going to set it to full width. And then in the header base, I'm going to give it a min height of 75 VH. I'm not sure if I'm going to need that, but just do that for now so we can see what we're doing. We're going to have a slider, and we have starter sliders in the Atom Builder framework, so we can just duplicate that, give it a name of Tesla in this case, and just add that slider. And now we can just add this slider component the way we need it to. And I'm just going to remove all the slides. So we have one slide for now. And inside that slide, we had a card. I'm going to remove that as well. I'm just going to rebuild this slide using, first I need an image, and it needs to be a background. So I'm just going to set it to absolute, give it an overlay, and give the opacity layer of 20%, like that. Inside the slide, I'm also going to have a block slot where I put my content. The box slot needs to be above the image, so we give it a C index. And then inside the block, I'll give it a title component, which holds a bunch of stuff, a title and a tagline, but we don't need that. So I'm just going to hide the tagline. And what else? We're going to put in a button group in the button slot, and then just put the buttons inside the button group. We have two buttons, one primary and then one. I'm just going to center the button group and then just change the second button to secondary. There we go. And then give this block slot a little bit of top padding because it's not completely at the top. There we go. And now just change the text styles. Make sure they're pretty similar. So then we can just copy and paste the text inside these components and give it a style of link in this case because it has an underline. There's a utility class for that in client first. And then, of course, we have to select this header base and give it a color scheme dark, so that means that the text will be white. Then add some button text real quick. What else do we need to do here? Yeah, just update the other slides also, I think, in a minute. Add the image, of course, and it's starting to look pretty good. And I see that we need to do a little tweaks to the slider navigation because it's placed center, so it's placed with absolute. So I'll just update those settings. Also for the navigation dots at the bottom, switch that out, and I removed the min height for the slider and actually placed the slider in the background slot instead. So that just works because then it's going to be placed covering the whole area of the header. I see that I actually swapped the slider arrows wrong, so I just need to change them so they're pointing the right direction and also make the icon color black with the utility class. So that was quite fast, but about double the speed, I think. But it looks like we're done with this slider. The only thing we need to do is go into the slider and just duplicate these slides and swap out the content. So there are just 2 slides, so that's easy. So second slide is the Model 3. It's just copy and paste some of the text here. And also remove the text style link. On the second one, replace the image. There we go. Oh, okay, I see that they use a crossfade instead, and I think Webflow slider, it's quite easy just to change the animation effect. So yeah, crossfade like that. Autoplay, I think they also have, so let's just put that on. And just check the responsiveness. So I see the slide is set to 80% by default there, so I just zero that out and it's 100%. And okay, here we need some padding as well. Okay, I forgot that. So we'll just add some padding to the block slot. Quick way to do that is use the styles. Can just add a padding of 5%. And okay, then that's gonna so we have to change the slider dots also on mobile breakpoint. Okay, there's some, so you can hide maybe the arrows, or you can just decide to move them down on this breakpoint. So we'll do that for now. Just move them down by changing their absolute position. Okay. Well, sliders are tricky, so that took a bit longer than I wanted to, but sliders are tricky. So there we go. Next section, we just delete all these pre-populated sections and headers that we have. So we have a a section base. Gonna set a padding of 5% because the Tesla site is full width with just a small padding around each section. So then we can set, we'll add a block slot, give it a foreground variant, which gives it the foreground gray color. Inside the block slot, we add a grid. It's an uneven grid with 1-2 fraction, and add the gap of extra small. Inside this uneven grid, first we're going to have a block slot, and it has a little bit of padding, so I'm going to give it a utility class of padding large. It's a fluid padding class. Inside the block slot, we're going to add our text. So we have a heading component and a paragraph component. Inside the block slot, we're also going to have an auto grid, which lets us create these the stats below there. And auto grid is really great because it lets us control not on breakpoint but on screen size when it's going to break. I'm just going to add the content, as you can see now real fast. Give the right utility classes for the text. And so inside the first block slot, inside the grid, we're going to add some of the text stats and your little text there. Give it the right utility classes. I'd use a heading class for the number because it's quite large. Also add a spacer there so I get the right spacing between them. Increase the space for the blocks so we have the right spacing. And I'm just going to add some content. On the right side, I'm also add a block slot, but inside this block slot, we're going to add a background video. And there's a starter component for that as well that I duplicate and gave it a Tesla name. And I place it in a block slot, but the block has to have a relative class, so it holds the video. And the video is going to cover the entire block slot. Also set a min height of this video so it doesn't become really skinny on really large screens. Okay, we're moving pretty fast here, but we're already done with this section. I'm gonna add the button group. I forgot the button group. So a button group with 2 buttons, primary and secondary, like this. And just add the button text as well. It's really tight on this demo screen, but that's just to keep everything not too small. But when I preview it like this, it looks pretty good. The next section is another slider with cards. So we're just going to build that. I'm going to add a section base. I'm going to set it up from scratch. So I'm going to give it a container with full, give it a padding of 5%, just like before. Remove the padding top and padding bottom because we don't need that. We have that padding 5%. Duplicate the starter slider once again and give it a slider Tesla 2. Very creative. And then, yeah, we're going to build this slider and we don't need overflow hidden at this point because the slider needs to go outside your page. So remove that. And just in case, I'm just going to duplicate some of the slider classes here. Cars, why not? So we have unique classes for this slider. This slider, the slides they're not 100%, so I set 60%. Same for the slide. I create an own class for each slide because each slide has, in this case, some border radius. So I'm just gonna grab my variable border radius medium. I think works, and there we go. There's a card in there that I remove, and I remove all the other slides. In this slide now, I place an image, set it to absolute, and then on top of it, I place a flex column slot, because that's going to work, you will see, because I set the space direction to spaced with a small gap, and I set the whole column slot to 100%, so it covers the whole slide. So now I can space out a paragraph at the top. First, I have to give this block a C index of 1 so I can see it. But you see there's a little tag or tag at the top. So I'm just going to add that. And then at the bottom, there's a title. I'm just going to grab the title component from the hero section that we just built. It looks pretty similar. So, copy paste. That's what you do. So I'll paste it in here, but it's going to be style variant left aligned, and also the buttons are going to be left aligned. Give this flex box some padding, medium, and then swap out the image. And the text is still dark, so I think on the slider we just add a color scheme dark to the slider, which sets the color scheme to dark mode, which makes the text white like this. Let's change the padding to large. I think that looks better. Here we go. That's Tesla's site and our site. So it's very similar. Let's just copy some of the content for good reference and add that as well. Duplicate the slide. Same setup, we just need to swap out the content. So really fast, I'm just going to copy and paste content and also change out the image. I uploaded all the assets already, so you don't have to watch me do that boring stuff. But there we go. So that's all swapped out. Duplicate third slider, same exercise, and just rename some of the other text that I missed. Okay, so here we go. Here's our slider, and it looks pretty much the same. I think actually it looks a bit better. Okay. What is next? Okay, I see that my slider nav is kind of in the way, so I'm a bit lazy. I do a really quick combo class here, and I'm just going to move down the slider dots not by using a negative margin, I think, here on the bottom margin. So let's do 10%. That's going to push down the slider dots below the slider. And then I have to give this section a little bit of button padding so there's room for them. So there you go. That's great. The next section is we have these two boxes. That's going to be a bit easier to build. We're going to start with I just duplicate. In this case, I just duplicate the section base and remove the content inside, so all the settings are the same. Then inside, I'm going to add a auto grid and set the column size to medium and add a gap of medium. So inside the auto grid, we're going to place 2 block slots. We start with 1, give it a variant of foreground, which makes this gray, light gray color. Give it a radius medium, and just in case I put overflow hidden, so if any images won't stick out outside of the box. And then inside the block slot, I place an uneven grid. It's going to be 2, 1. So the first column is 2 fractions. Place a block slot in there, give it a padding medium. Inside that block slot, we add again a title component, hide the tagline, update some of the text utility classes. This is all client first classes. So if you work with client first, you learn them pretty quickly. Heading style 3. Let's copy some content for reference. And yeah, let's give it a text color of secondary, that gray color instead of almost black. Let's go back to heading 4. I think that looks better. It's not exactly the same, but I think hierarchy-wise, it feels like that's the right one. Another button group and 2 buttons, primary and second. Oh no, that was just 1 button, just 1 secondary button. And the button text. Now, in the second column in this uneven grid, we have an image. Just going to add an image, give it an aspect ratio of square, or I don't know, maybe we'll keep landscape. Just add the image. There we go. Aspect ratio landscape. Let's go for that. And then we just duplicate that block slot. So we have 2 in this auto grid. Let's set the column size to large instead, which means it's going to break earlier. So it's going to go down to 1 column earlier. That is on a larger screen size. Let's add some content. Swap out the image as well. It's very tight here, so it doesn't look very good, but I still think that maybe the images should have an aspect ratio of square. So it's very easily changed. Just update the utility class like this. It's also client first classes. So there we go. There's actually 2 buttons there on the second box. So let's duplicate and just give it the right button text as well. They're both secondary, which is strange, but we'll just follow along. Okay. Looks nice. We're done with this section now. Yes, okay, let's move on to the next. We have a big map. It's an interactive map. I'm not going to do an interactive map, but so I just duplicate the section base again, remove the content, and add an image. I'm just going to use an image for reference. Yes, uploaded that, compressed it really quick, and just added it, and give it a aspect ratio of anamorphic, and then a border radius of medium, like you saw. See that there's a little bit too much padding on top and bottom here, so I'm just going to remove the padding on the top and bottom. So I just have 0 and 5%, which means I only have 5% padding on the sides. Below this map, or it's an image in this case, we're going to build another section. And just duplicate the section base again, just remove the content. That's the fastest way because they all keep the same full width sections with the 5% padding. And then inside this section, we add an uneven grid again. Inside the first column, we add a title component, copy some of the text, and also hid the tagline. Okay, just add the text. And give it the same utility classes as before. And then also inside this uneven grid, we're going to add an auto fit grid here. So you could add like a 2-column component, but I like auto grid because this lets you control the breaking not by breakpoint but by screen size. So inside this block slot, I give it a flex row, so I can have the title and the icon right next to each other. So I'm just going to add an image and just add the icon there, as you see. And we're going to decrease the size of this heading. Make sure it has the right HTML tag, which should be 3 because we already had a 2, I think. It's a good practice. Decrease the padding between the title and the image there because it's a flex, so you can control the flex spacing with utility classes. What else? Okay, we have a little text under also. Let's first just add the proper content. Then we have superchargers under there. Okay. I see there's a bit too much space there. That's because the text has a default global padding, so I can just choose left trim instead. So that will trim away the padding below the heading. But I need some space, so I'll just add a spacer and give it a gap of extra small. Perfect spacing. This auto grid I'm going to set to XXS, which means it's the smallest column it creates. It means even on mobile, this auto grid is going to be on 2 columns like this. Only when it gets really, really tight, it's gonna drop down to 1 column for this auto grid, like you can see in the preview here, for example. All right, let's create the second column and just add the content and the correct icon as well. Here we go. Give it a same exercise here. Add the correct utility classes. Adjust the gap again for the flex box and just add that icon. So everything all goes pretty fast, but it's pretty simple. Simple stuff to do. I think we're getting done here. We forgot again the button group. So in the left column, let's add a button group, and again add buttons to the button group. Set primary and secondary. And then also for this auto grid, or for the uneven grid, I increased the gap to gap large, and also increased the text size here a bit, so it looks a bit more similar. Okay, let's move on to the next, which is the same as the slider we just built. So I'm not going to bore you with redoing that. So I'm just going to duplicate it, drag it into place. And I think that's done. I'm not going to spend time replacing the content because you already saw me do that once. But so yeah, there's your second slider. It's the same slider. The only thing I have to do, I have to add a bit more space. I use section large at the bottom. Yeah, and the footer looks very simple. It's a very boring footer. I'm not going to build that. That would not take very long, but let's publish this and see how it looks. Here we go. Here's your slider, your video. I didn't upload the right video. I couldn't get a hold of it, but that's a video. You can replace that. And here's your slider that we built with the cards and your 2 boxes. Your fake interactive map here. Yeah. So that's it. Here's the Tesla site. Can you even tell a difference? They're very similar. And there you have it, the Tesla homepage rebuilt in Webflow using the Atom Builder framework. We updated the global variables, changed the colors and typography, we built the navbar, the hero section, and all the main homepage sections. We were able to build a page very close to the original using components, props, slots, and some utility classes, instead of manually constructing everything from scratch. This is where Atom really starts to make sense, right? You get the speed of a page builder, but the structure and control of a proper Webflow framework. If you want to try Atom yourself, you'll find the free clonable in the description. And if there's another famous homepage site you want me to rebuild next, please drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.